And blessed to be a part of your day. Welcome to Monday. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. So much to talk about. I love someone who sent us a text over the weekend saying, look, I don't really care what Stormy Daniels said. The interview with 60 Minutes aired last night. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, in the City of Trees, the big march over the weekend. You can read about that at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Lots going on today. And, of course, coming up next week, we start the $5,000 your chance to win $5,000 on KIDO Talk Radio. We call it Win K Millie's Cash. More details coming up. But joining us now is comedian Frank King to talk about a very serious topic. Frank, always good to have you back.
Thank you, Kevin. It's nice to be back. I'm in Miami, by the way, on my way to catch a cruise ship to go to work.
Well, those cruise ships, I hear that's a pretty lucrative gig.
It's not a bad gig, you know. I do 2 shows in 10 days, maybe 4 shows. The rest of the time, I'm just a passenger.
Now, that's a rough gig. So before we get rolling here on a topic that you have been so gracious to talk about, so open to talk about suicide, did you catch the Stormy Daniels thing? Did you have anything that you'd like to share? Because one thing we love about you, Frank, is you and I can agree to disagree on topics, but we love having you on.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I saw bits and pieces of the Stormy Daniels interview because I was on a plane when she was actually on tape on 60 Minutes. I was a little underwhelmed by the information that she gave. I think I was expecting more details. You know, I think Anderson Cooper made a mistake by not following up when she talked about the person who threatened her. I think I would have said, you probably would have said, Kevin, look, okay, describe the guy to me. Okay, and you've seen the people that circulate around Donald Trump and have for the last 10 years. Do any of them look familiar? I mean, because they're all in the news and on TV all the time. So I think that's where now there may have been an agreement with the attorney that, you know, don't pursue that. That's for a later whatever. But it just seemed like he fell down on the job. That was the piece I was waiting for. You know, describe the guy. Have you seen him before? Do you know if he works in that sort of Trump circle?
Well, I mean, do we really need to know this? I mean, Frank, again, you know where I'm coming from on this, but I mean, what relevant is it that, how relevant is it that she describes her encounter with Donald Trump and she, and because we're a family-friendly show, we won't go too detailed, she literally spanked him. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the lascivious or the sexual aside, if someone paid her 12 days before the election, $130,000 in hush money, if that's what it was, and that's a campaign funding violation. So that would probably be something that the election commission or whatever would be interested in terms of criminal activity. I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, but I mean, everything else was kind of like, it's like that big, the end of Seinfeld or the last episode of Friends. It just didn't really kind of live up to the hype, but only Frank King lives up to the hype here at KIDO Talk Radio.
Thank you. Yes. No, it did not. I was expecting much more. He tweeted a picture of a DVD, so I'm expecting, photographs and video. One of my least favorite things, Kevin, that, on a lighter note, is to be disappointed like that by the media. Big tease, and then, you open up the vault, Al Capone's vault, and bless his heart, Geraldo is very upfront about, well, there ain't nothing here. Sorry about that, guys.
I remember that. That was some good times. Frank King joining us here. Frank, before we get to obviously this other topic, your thoughts on the march over the weekends. Again, the last time we had you on, after you left, your ears must have been burning because people were talking about what you had to say concerning firearms, sir.
Yeah, I had a feeling the phones would light up. Here's what concerns me, Kevin. There are people I dearly love, with whom I can agree to disagree, as you and I do, on guns. I don't know where the idea came from. I heard you say this actually this morning, something about taking away the Second Amendment. I think the confusion, at least to my mind, is that it's a binary. It's either you have guns or you do away with the Second Amendment. And I think the issue really is on gun regulation, sensible gun regulation, universal background checks and closing the gun show and internet loopholes. So, but somewhere along the line, a lot of my friends on the right have gotten the idea that we're out to somehow blow, to remove the Second Amendment from the Constitution. And by the way, if somebody said to me, Frank, we're thinking about repealing the Second Amendment. Well, you can keep on thinking because that's not going to happen. So I've got two handguns, lovely, and I take good care of them. So I think it's I think that's my problem is that somewhere along the line somebody has put out the proposition that the people on the left are somehow, and maybe there are people on my side who want to do away with the Second Amendment, but that's silly.
Now wait a minute, Frank. I didn't know that there were any conservative folks in Eugene.
That's right. Well, they call it the People's Republic of Eugene for a reason, Kevin.
Right.
Matter of fact, I thought I was pretty liberal until I moved to Eugene. Oh, dear God.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I was at some meeting and it's about like affordable housing and they don't want to build anything. And I'm like, look, sooner or later we're going to have to cut down a tree. You can hug it once it's on the ground, but we're going to have to cut it down. We need more housing. And of course, I got booed out of the room. But yeah, it's an interesting place.
Indeed. By the way, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
I would go to frank@frankking.com. That's my email, frank@frankking.com.
All right. We'll give that out several more times. Frank, last week we thought of you, and unfortunately it wasn't in a good way, where we had an 11-year-old who had tried to kill herself. Fortunately, she didn't. And we keep hearing about suicide. And again, we had you on, and it's one of the best segments that we've done on this program over the years, talking about suicide, raising awareness. Of course, we lost an Olympiad, Speedy. We have the Speedy Foundation now, all of a sudden, over this as well. It hits so close to home, but, again, people don't talk about it as much as they should.
Yeah. Let's see. One young person aged 15 to 24 dies by suicide in the U.S. every 2 hours and 3 minutes. And I know you guys, there's a bill on the governor's desk, I believe, to have suicide prevention training and postvention, Kevin, which is almost as important. In other words, after somebody in, say, a school dies by suicide, whether it's a teacher or a staff member or a student, there's a process that needs to take place postvention, where you come in and people need to be able to, share their emotions, their questions, have their questions answered. So I'm proud of the legislature for realizing that, because if we can catch kids starting in middle school and begin discussing the topics of depression and anxiety, I think we can cut that rate down by a great deal because they don't want to come out. They don't want to speak about it. No parent wants a child who's not perfect. But if we can begin that conversation, which is my thing, start the conversation, then I think I applaud the legislature for. I do hope the governor signs it.
Do you do you think we're just more aware of this, or are there more pressures on today's youth with social media and the gaming and everything else, Frank? Why is this a bigger issue than it was when we were kids?
I think you hit part of the nail on the head with the social media. When you and I were kids, bullying was the guy in the locker next to you hitting you on the shoulder really hard, but because it gave him great joy. And there was no social media. The rates of suicide for young people are going up. So it's not just a matter of better reporting. The numbers are increasing, and it's not just teens. I mean, senior citizens, it's almost epidemic. Middle-aged white guys are just about an endangered species at this point because, the factory's closed, you've lost your job. Your self-image was tied to your job. You're 50, 60 years old, and, so so the rates are actually increasing. And I think that's why it's important to start young people early with training and also teachers, staff, to see what does depression look like? What does depression look like? What does it look like or sound like when somebody's having thoughts of suicide? Because again, 8 out of 10 people who are contemplating it are ambivalent. So that means we can save 8 out of 10 if we can just interrupt that cascade of events leading to the actual suicide. 2 out of 10, Kevin, I'm afraid we can't save everybody.
Indeed, our great friend Frank King joining us, comedian, and getting ready to hit the Love Boat on a cruise out of Miami, Florida. Working. Too bad you missed it yesterday here. I mean, it was snowing yesterday morning. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, actually, Kevin, over the weekend got stuck in St. Martin. Caribbean Airlines not known for their punctuality. I think close counts in Horseshoe Tango Days and Caribbean Airlines, and so I missed my American flight to Miami. And of course, it's spring break down here, Kevin, so there were no seats. I got out the last flight last night on the last seat to get me to Miami today, so I can actually literally catch up to the cruise ship in Grand Turk in a couple of days. So it's tough life, I'm telling you. When I called home and said I'm stuck in St. Martin, I didn't get a lot of love from anybody. I didn't really get a lot of.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm getting a lot of envy here, but on a serious note, Frank King, let's get back to what we can do. And for those people that, let's talk about the endangered middle-aged white guy that maybe is having a hard time. Maybe the job is changing. Maybe the kids aren't relating anymore, and they wonder, what is their worth? What would you say to them?
Oh, it's at that point you need to interrupt. And it's those sort of thoughts, if the child is willing to give voice to them, that are a danger sign that they are perhaps contemplating, doing something, self-harm, as they call it. If you suspect someone is depressed, let's say that the child comes to you and says that, then first thing you don't need to say is pull yourself up by your bootstraps. The thing you need to say is, look, I'm here for you, and you need to mean it. I know you're not lazy, crazy, or self-absorbed. I know that perhaps, I know that you sound as if you're depressed, and that's an illness. And if it turns out you have the illness, the good news is with time and treatment, things will get better, and I'll take the time, and I'll help you get the treatment. And then you need to ask, as we talked about last time, if someone comes and says, they're feeling worthless, which, by the way, is a sign of depression and thoughts of suicide, you need to say, are you having thoughts of suicide? I think we talked about there's a school of thought you should never mention the S word in front of somebody who's depressed because it will give them the idea. Like it's never crossed their mind. And if they're having thoughts of suicide, then you have to ask them, do you have a plan? And if you have a plan, what is the plan? The more detailed the plan, the more dangerous the situation. And then at that point, if they're depressed, having thoughts of suicide, they have a plan, it's detailed, then you need to get them on the phone with the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And if they won't pick up the phone, and by the way, for young people, you can text the word HI, H-I, to 741-741, because oftentimes young people are more forthcoming in text than they are on the phone, like older people like I am. I'm more comfortable on the phone. And if they won't pick up the phone, you need to pick up the phone. The volunteer at the Suicide Prevention Lifeline will do their best to talk the phone into the hand of the person who's in crisis. Question always comes up, when do you call the cops? When you alert the police that somebody is having thoughts, if they're an immediate danger to themselves or to others, then the police need to be involved. Now, you and I both know in Florida, the police and so forth were involved many times. And, dropped the ball who knows how many times on the gentleman the guy who opened fire at the high school or the school in Florida. So it's not a perfect solution. But, yeah, if they're a danger to themselves or others, the police need to be. And I think, Kevin, the important thing there is follow-up. If somebody had followed up, not just turned it over to the police, but followed up, a teacher, an administrative staff member, called the law enforcement, goes, okay, now what? You talk to them, what's our next step? I think that's where they dropped the ball.
I would agree. Frank King, we appreciate you. You take care. And one more time, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
They can find me at frank@frankking.com or on Grand Turk.
Fair enough, Frank. God bless, and hopefully one day we'll get you in town.
I'm looking forward to it. The City of Trees. I'm looking forward to seeing both those.
Take care, Frank.
Yeah.
Our great friend Frank King joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning coming up. We'll talk a little bit about the marches over the weekend and Stormy. Remember, the great thing about this program is it's you and me every morning starting the day on the right side. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And thank you all for joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. If you were out having a good time, you missed this over the weekend.
Starting at the State House.
Because today we march for our lives because we are the future.
Different ages and races coming together with the same message.
It's really scary because I feel like I shouldn't be able to go to school and not feel safe, and it's scary, and I just sometimes wonder, like, what if it happens in Boise?
Hoping to grab the attention of lawmakers.
I work with children that are 6 weeks to 5 years of age, and we still have to do practice of lockdown drills and look at active shooter concerns, and so all our kids matter, and they're not listening.
Through speakers,
9 days before I graduated from Seattle Pacific University, a man came to my school and shot 3 students, killing one of them.
How could I be a teacher when I couldn't guarantee the safety of my students? How could I go to work every day without being terrified that I would be in another school shooting?
and music.
These rules ain't changing. God bless America.
Marching through the streets of downtown Boise.
I think a lot of people are going to hear this.
And there we have it from our news partners at Channel 7. Remember, when you hear Channel 7 on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. So there we have it. We have people here in the Treasure Valley, of course, other people across the country doing the same thing at the nation's capital.
Since this movement began, people have asked me, do you think any change is going to come from this? Look around. We are the change.
Right. 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
This is more than just a march. This is more than just one day, one event, then moving on. This is not a mere publicity stunt, a single day in the span of history. This is a movement. This is a movement relying on the persistence and the passion of its people.
Boy, they sure are humble, aren't they? Now, no one wants school shootings. No one wants anyone's kid to be harmed. It really comes down to the solution. And no, I'm not going to self-report. I don't think that these kids really have figured it out. I don't think that these kids understand that just doing a march or threatening people or, saying that your parents or grandparents are ignorant are really going to endear you to anybody. And look, this was this is my opinion. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It's how I make my living until it's not how I make my living. But this is, in my opinion, it was just an organized way for people to vilify the Second Amendment. I had a good talk over the weekend with a young man. We were talking about hardening targets. And we were talking about, the idea of these schools need to be looked at like, and Sean Hannity and Donald Trump have talked about this. We have more security in our airports than we do in our schools. Why is that? Should we march for security? And I understand these kids want to do something, but vilifying guns and everything else, it makes no sense. It really doesn't. It just alienates the people that are in charge of the change. I don't see it making a difference. Do you? Currently, it is 6:27, traffic and weather. Thank you, Larry. By the way, how about that snow yesterday morning? Whew. Welcome to spring. Josh in Eagle with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Josh.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing?
Not bad for a Monday, sir. And you?
Good, man. Hey, on this gun stuff, I'm born and raised in Idaho, and Idaho's typically been a few years behind everyone else in the big cities and the big areas. But these kids coming in here and these views, it's sad. I go downtown Boise. I don't even recognize being in Boise any longer. But these kids and all these friends of mine were at the march, and I'm a gun-toting, concealed weapon permit holding guy. But it's like they want the government to take care of them, and I feel for these kids. I can't imagine being a kid today, and, it would be scary to go to school and wondering about that stuff. But, what are they? It's like they want the government to step in for everything to take care of them. And at the end of the day, we're responsible to take care of ourselves. And that mentality is just really, really bothers me. And we all know that when the government steps in and gets its little foot in the door, it always grows into something more than it originally was meant to be, you know. And
well,
I guess
Josh, I totally agree with you. And here's the scary part. In the old days, we would look for individuals and communities to solve problems, and yet now we have these people that are well-meaning but ill-informed wanting the state to solve their problems by banning guns. And what is their solution if not to ban guns when they're talking about being safe? And by the way, having been to area schools, and we'll be starting our 16th season, our 8th year of doing this, there's not a lot of fear in the schools. You go there and people are learning. This false narrative by these marchers and by these folks in the media is doing a disservice to the good that's going on in education here in the Treasure Valley right now.
Well, on the gun talk show you guys have yesterday, he was on there talking about just the financing that the other side is getting, just massive amounts of funding versus the NRA. You know, they're sending people to live in the states, 6, 7, 8 people, he was saying the statistics said, where the NRA has one person, basically like a sales rep, roaming 5 to 6 states on their own. And, you know, the good people, we got to show up, you know, and that's what his point was. And I totally agreed with him, because these people are showing up. They're missing work. They're willing to skip school or, you know, not go to some other event to go to this event. So the good people that don't want to lose their rights need to go. You know, I need to go.
You're right, and we'll always make sure that you know where to go, and to give voice to the good folks. Josh, thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, great call by Josh. More calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug. And Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you all for joining us. Coming up, Tanya J. Powers will join us. We'll talk a little bit about Stormy Daniels, get your thoughts on that. If you watched the 60 Minutes piece last night, many of you may have. Also, getting your thoughts on the student protest. Lots of news to talk about today, and don't forget that Dave Petzel will join us. We'll be talking to him about the markets. Brutal week last week when you're thinking about the markets and, of course, all the gains that were lost and all sorts of things. So we'll got a lot going on today, plus your phone calls at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Now, next week, we start Win Kevin's Cash on KIDO Talk Radio, where you can win up to $5,000. That's right, up to $5,000 on KIDO Talk Radio. Details at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Let's go to R&R. It's been a while, and thanks for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good to hear your voice, Kevin.
How are you, brother?
Hey, I'm good. I've enjoyed the last couple of days. It's been good old stuff. I'm back. I wanted to bring up this concept of debtor's prison. I think you'll be talking about it tomorrow. There are certainly already some debtor's prisons, one of which I'm very much informed in. It's over in Polk County in Oregon, next to the casino. And it's located in Dallas, Oregon, on Main Street. Just if you wanted to Google that or make some research. Debtors in the whole state of Oregon, there's no such thing as bail. So I knew 2 people there. One that he just showed over at the casino to enjoy the event, and they had eye recognition. Probably at the time it was the best in the United States, and he ended up in debtor's prison for he owed some child support. The thing about debtor's prison is the fee gets set, and you are instantly buying plexiglass, and then if you can't come up with the money, let's say $7,000 to $8,000 within a couple of days, you're there without the benefit. As I said, I knew the guy that got deported and ended up going back to Bulgaria. But
so you know people that have been deported for owing money.
For owing own money.
Yeah, I always thought they outlawed debtor's prison.
Debtor's prison, I'm told, and I'd like to be disproven. The third most corrupt debtor's prison in American soil is in Dallas, Oregon, Polk County, Oregon. And then along with that, it would be and is always the authority of any county you're in, anywhere in the nation of the United States. The highest ranking and only recognized authority is going to be the county sheriff. And I would like to ask specifically, maybe when you're talking to Mr. Labrador on the phone or on interview, would you ask him sometime what the qualifications are for these elected sheriffs? I mean, they are the most powerful men in all of our homes, in all of our counties, and yet what are their minimum qualifications? I know they're elected, but it's like if you got somebody that says, okay, sheriff, go out and haul in all these guys and send them to debtor's prison, right, what's going to stop them? Nothing's going to stop them.
Great call, R&R. By the way, we'll just move on with Tanya G. Powers. We apologize for that. It looks like she missed the hit. But we can still talk about Stormy Daniels, and we'll still talk about these kids at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And why don't we continue on with some of the student marches over the weekend. And you can't tell me that they don't want to take your guns.
Take this to our local legislators, and let's take this to midterm elections, because without the persistent heat, without the persistence of voters and Americans everywhere getting out to every election, democracy will not flourish, but it can and it will. So, I say to those politicians that say change will not come, I say we will not stop until every man, every woman, every child, and every American can live without fear of gun violence. And to that I say, no more. Thank you. I love you all. God bless all of you, and God bless America. We can and we will change the world.
And there we have it. They're changing the world. Or are they just getting a bunch of camera time and a lot of anti-Second Amendment, a lot of firearm freedom rhetoric? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Busy day already this morning. David in Nampa with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, David.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I have a feeling this is going to be more Occupy Wall Street and less Tea Party at the end. But can I say something? And I lost my mother to suicide. She didn't do it with a gun. When you hear 35,000 gun deaths, okay, knock 2 out of 3 out because they're suicides. So we have 12,000. Okay? They say, if it saves one life. Well, John Locke said 2.5 million times a year people use guns or the fear of guns to defend someone. So that's about 208 times for every murder. Okay? And by the way, most of the murders, 2% are with these bad guns. The others are with handguns. But take that off the table. A liberal said that it was 650,000. Okay, that's 54. Split the babies, it's 131. So for every 131 times a gun is used to save a life, one person is killed. Second, Laura Ingraham for, God, it'll be 15 years, would say ETL, enforce the law. 47 times this guy had some contact with some authorities. 23 were the police. If once, and how many times we saw that with Columbine? Because, and now, the most craptacular president we've ever had started that Promise program, which you know about, Ann Coulter wrote about it and everything, that you can't, whatever happens in school has like a diplomatic immunity. If one of those 23 times this murderer had gotten pinched by the cops, he would have been flagged. And this is what the left does all the time. They pass laws, they don't work, and they say, you know what, these laws we passed don't work, you know, which is like, and we need more laws, which is like saying that space age, you know, ski machine, bicycle, torture device that you bought, you know, how come I'm still fat? Well, when you use it to hang your clothes, it doesn't work. You know, you actually have to get on it, you know, half hour a day or something. You know what I'm saying? That's what the left does. They pass laws.
Right, but David, you're a deep thinker, and we appreciate you calling in and giving your voice here at KIDO Talk Radio. But let's go a little deeper. Let's go into the nefariousness of these kids. What do they want? Do they want the state to regulate everything? So it's like Rosie O'Donnell, that only the elite can have firearms, not addressing the hardening of targets. Look, marches are great, but what is that really going to do, my friend? As you've said, Laura Ingraham has said, enforce the laws. I don't get it. Can you delve into their psyche?
Well, in the case of the kids, I don't think they're nefarious. I think they're being used, and I'm very sorry for them. You know, the girl who stood for 6 minutes and say that's how long it took the shooting, when she should have said that's how long it took the coward of Broward not to do anything. But so I feel sorry for the kids. You know, our word Sophia means means wisdom, and phileo means love. So, or moronic means moron. Sorry, philosophy means love's wisdom. Sophomore means a wise fool. Okay, these kids are just smart enough to be dangerous, most of them themselves. Sophomoric does not mean wise; it means fools. So, I'm sorry for these kids. It's not that they're stupid; it's that they're victims. They're victims of the Rosie O'Donnells. You know, they're victims of the Ellen DeGenereses. They're victims of the, George Clooney, who hates us, and Hillary Clinton, who we're now not half of us are basket of deplorables. We're all deplorables again. Remember her India speech?
Right. Of course, she's saying that from the sideline and not the Oval Office.
Yes. But I mean, it's calculated. And of course, George Soros, who is the closest thing to a James Bond villain. I mean, the only thing he doesn't have is a death ray out of the top of a mountain.
Sure.
But he's back of this. So, I feel sorry for them, but because I feel sorry for you, I'm not going to burn down my country. You know what I'm saying? And when they say, the NRA has blood on its hands, remember when they had pulled that discount for airliners, which I did not know about? And I'll bet you 1 in 200 people in the NRA even knew it. And what do they have, 8 people, 6 people actually used it? The NRA aren't members because they want discounts on airfare. I mean, it's crazy.
No,
I'm
right, and you go back to the stores and such. How much weapons did they really sell? David, thank you for the call. Joe in Caldwell with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Kevin. These kids, like you keep saying, kids, the key word here, have no life experience other than what they've been told on TV and military, and on media and all that kind of stuff. Until they're, had some sort of experience, I don't even know why we're even giving them airtime, period. You know what I mean? Don't even talk about it. It's ridiculous. Because what's going to happen is they're 16, 17, maybe even 18 now, but in 10, 15 years, they're really going to regret doing this. What if they did change it? What if they did get our laws taken away? 10 years from now, they're going to hate themselves. They really are, because they're going to grow up and be like, wow, that was just a fluke thing or whatever it is, mob mentality. And now I really need my guns. What are they going to do then? They're not going to be marching.
Joe, great point. Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
All right. There'll be some regret, right? And just their anger and everything else. But is this really going on in local schools? At 580-5436. 580-KIDO. When you talk to your kids, are they all about the march? Are they fearing for their lives every day? Let's talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day. Thank you, Ray and Maya. The Stormy Daniels interview. And if, again, you were doing other things last night, enjoying the extra long days after the stormy Sunday morning, well, you probably missed the Stormy Daniels things. Interview with Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes. Everyone will be talking about it.
Why did you sign it?
Because they made it sound like I had no choice.
I mean, no one was putting a gun to your head.
Not physical violence, no.
You thought that there would be some sort of legal repercussion if you didn't sign it.
Correct. As a matter of fact, the exact sentence used was, they can make your life hell in many different ways.
They being...
I'm not exactly sure who they were. I believe it to be Michael Cohen.
And there we have it. So Anderson Cooper, I thought, did a decent job last night on the Stormy Daniels interview. And now, again, the search continues. The search continues to try and find something on President Trump. First, it was the Muslim ban, and the Muslims were going to be mad, and they weren't. Then it was going to be build the wall to keep the illegals out, and the illegals were going to be mad, and they probably are, but many of them went home in fear of the actual immigration laws being enforced. Then it was the Russians. Then it was the Russians again, and then it was the Russians part 3. Now we have the independent prosecutor, the special prosecutor, Mueller, looking into whether or not Trump paid off women and it was an illegal cash contribution. You have to wonder, why is Stormy doing this? Is she a victim?
They're trying to. Like, oh, Stormy Daniels comes out, hashtag Me Too. This is not a Me Too. I was not a victim. I've never said I was a victim. I think trying to use me to further someone else's agenda does horrible damage to people who are true victims.
Well, Stormy, if you're not a victim, what are you? That's what I'd like to know. And I'm watching this last night, and I'm thinking to myself, Anderson, mind your own business. Is it really part of the national conversation how President Trump met this exotic dancer? Does anybody care? It's like Anderson Cooper, to me, was reduced to being the gossip, right? And here's the other thing. I wish we could have gone back in the time machine, the KIDO Talk Radio time machine, and say, I would have liked to have heard about Bill Clinton and Paula Jones or Juanita Broderick or something of that nature. Where was the attention for these folks? Oh, those were different times. Traffic and weather together, our time. And coming up, we're going to take a look at news about your money with Dave Petzo, number 1. Number 2, we're taking it to the streets. As always, our commitment to get out and listen to what you have to say. This week, we'll be in Meridian. Join us at the Ultra Touch Car Wash on Cherry Lane, Kevin Miller's old neighborhood. Looking forward to going back and seeing all the peeps, hearing from you. We'll be right across from Kids Again. So if you're in Meridian, if you're going on Fairview, Cherry Lane, stop by and see us at the Ultra Touch. Why? Well, we'd love to get your thoughts on the good things going on in the Treasure Valley and hear what you have to say about your city, your town, your home. Ultra Touch on Thursday. Looking forward to hanging out in Meridian. You can't miss us. We're going to be right on the sidewalk, right next to the cars zooming by. It's going to be a good one. Thursday, Ultra Touch. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.